Hello there, this is PG of PG's Lumacy. Wouldn't it be fun for the kids to have their own Thor action figure when they go to watch the movie that comes out this week? Well, that is what this video is all about. And I can't wait to start. This will be a good time to check if you have the colors needed for this project. For the hair, I'm using yellow. For the skin, I'm using a pastel type of beige rubber bands. They are not original Rainbow Loom refill bands. For the shirt, I am using black and gray bands. And I am using a new line of Rainbow Loom refill bands. It is the metallic line that they have. It comes in gold and silver. And I am using that for some portions of the action figure. For the pants, I am using dark blue. And for the boots, I am using black. Before you start working on the main body, you will want to prepare the arms. And for the arms, we will be using a loom that is on the standard offset configuration. And this is the way to place the bands. We'll be using double silver bands. Another pair of double silver bands. And then the next step will be 3 silver bands. And then 2 silver bands. And I saw a picture of Thor where he had something red in his cuff. So I am using a gray band and a red band for the next row in the arms. If you don't have red, it's okay, just use gray or black. But in my case, I will be using a gray and a red band for the next row. And then we will be getting the skin colored bands, the beige colored bands. We need 3 of them for the hand. And we will place that on the loom. So there you have it. The placement of the bands for the arm. And then we will loop a cap band on this end pin over here. And we will loop it 3 times. 1, 2, and 3. And now let us loop the arm. You grab the 3 skin colored bands and loop them to the forward pin. I only got the 2, so I need to go back for the other one. There. So we looped the 3 skin colored bands to the forward hook. And then we grab the gray and red bands and loop them to the forward pin. And onto the silver double bands. Pay attention to this. For these 3 bands, we will not loop them to their forward pin, but instead we will loop them to this pin over here. So you grab the 3 bands and then loop them to this pin over here. Then you grab the 2 silver bands from this pin and loop it to the forward pin. And grab the 2 silver bands from this pin and loop to the forward pin. And that will be the layout for the arm. And the way to take this piece out of the loom is to first insert a toothpick on the two loops that we formed on top. And then we get the whole piece of the loom. And this will be the arm for our Thor action figure. For those of you who finished the basic action figures tutorial, this is one of the modifications that I have done for the Thor action figure to simulate a more tapered body, more muscles in his arms. So I took the toothpick out, being very careful not to undo the loops that I already have in there. And what I do is to put together these loops and these loops. And likewise, I will put together these loops and these loops. So that way, when we attach the arm to the main body, it will look like a solid mass of muscles for our Thor action figure. You will see that when we attach it to the main body. Let us place the bands on our loom. The loom will be in the standard offset configuration where the pins are staggered and the arrow will be pointing downwards, and we will be placing the loom from the top going to the bottom. Let us start with the bands for the hair. Yellow double bands are placed on the first row of pins. Then we add a row of the flesh colored bands for the face. And then we will place beige color bands in a diagonal to form the chin. And then double bands for the neck. For the shirt, I am using a pair of black and gray rubber bands. That is just to simulate the accents on his shirt. So we place the bands in the center this way, and then on the sides they're going to be in a diagonal. And then to this we add a row of black and gray rubber bands. And then to the sides we add another pair, one on each side. Okay. Then we add silver bands for the next row. And for the pants, we are using dark blue double bands. To this, we add 2 rows of blue double bands on each side. And then, for the boots, we will be using silver. And they are double bands. To these and pins over here, we will add a cap band that will also simulate the lower part of the boot. And the way to do that is to wrap a single black band on a hook 3 times. 1, 2, and 3. And then you get 3 rubber bands and pull them into that first band. And it will be easier to put it back to the hook so we could place it on the end pins. Like so. Okay, let's do that again for the other leg. Three times. Then 3 black bands. We pull them into that first band. Put that back in the hook so it will be easier to place. In this section over here. So that is the layout for the vertical bands in this project. You may want to pause the video and check to see if you have the same layout. The next thing we will do is to attach the arms that we made in the beginning to the main body. And we will put the loops that we bunched together with the toothpicks on these 2 pins. Let's start with the first set of loops. Use the hook so it'll be easier to place them on the loom. Okay. Take off the toothpick, replace it with the hook, being very careful not for this to be undone. Place these loops onto that pin. Okay. This is another modification of the basic action figure because we wanted to have more muscles for our Thor action figure. In the basic action figure, he was just a regular guy, not a lot of muscle in there. But Thor, you know, has a more muscular build, so we wanted to simulate that, and that is why we are placing the arms that way, to create a more appearance of muscles in his upper body. Let's do that again for the other arm. Replace the toothpick with the hook and then place those loops on this pin over here. And then do that for the other set of loops. Replace the toothpick with the hook and then place the loops here. Being very careful that these hooks will not slip off the loom. And that is how our arms are attached to the main body. You will want these 3 bands to be closer to the top, and these 3 bands on this layer here to be closer to the bottom. The same goes for this side. You will want these loops to be closer to the top and the one in the bottom to be closer to the bottom. That way, the arms will appear more natural and they will not look like they're twisted up in an unnatural way. Let us place the horizontal bands that will hold the piece together. We will use double looped bands for the face. And the way to do that is to twist the bands in kind of like a figure 8, fold it to itself to form a double looped band. A single band is twisted, folded to itself, and it will form a double loop. Now in the chest area, because we don't want the horizontal bands to constrict the width of the chest area, we will be placing a single band on these pins that are in the chest area. And then to create the appearance of a tapered upper body, we will be placing double loop bands in the waist area. And I'll be using black. So double loop bands in this area and double loop bands in this area. You may want to use blue for this so it doesn't show when you loop. So blue twisted to itself, folded to form a double loop band, and we place it in the hip area. So that is the layout for our horizontal bands. Just a quick review. We have double looped, single, double looped, double looped. You might want to pause the video and check to see if you have the same layout. Let us loop the bands. This will just be like a standard single triple or a double triple, where we will loop the bands to their forward pin. First we work on the bottom bands. We get to these silver double bands and loop them to their forward pin. Let's work on this other side. Now let's work on the pants. Next will be the silver bands in the gut area. Now let's work on the upper body all the way to the shoulders. This is just standard looping, as in a single triple or a double triple. Now when you get to the arm section, because we have a thick layer of bands, you are looking for this band over here, the bottommost band. So what you do is to go all the way to the bottom of the layers and then grab the two bottommost pair of bands, get them out of there, and then loop to the forward pin. Let's do that for the other side. We are looking for this bottommost band. We dig for it, and then we take it out wiggle it out a bit, and then loop to the forward pin. And here's another thick layer of bands. We are looking for this band over here. That is the diagonal band. You dig for it. You wiggle it out a bit. And then loop it to its forward pin. Same goes for the other side. We are looking for this band, so we will dig for it, take it out of there, and then loop to the center pin. Then we grab this black and gray pairing of bands and then loop it to the forward pin. And that is the looping for the shirt for this action figure. Let us now loop the head area, starting with the neck. We are reaching for this skin colored band, pair of bands. Go all the way to the bottom, take it out, and then loop to the forward pin. You might need to just release that pair of bands so that we will have the teardrop shape. Now we will work on these diagonal bands that form the chin. This looks like it's the one on the top, so we will grab this and loop it to its forward pin. That teardrop shape over there tells us that we did the right thing. And then the next one will be this pair of bands. We grab it, take it out, and then place it in the forward pin. You see here, this indicates that we did not get the right pair of bands. We probably got the one from here since this has been pulled. So we just need to do it again. Just put this back. If it was not in an obvious area, you could probably just let it go, but since this is a very obvious area, it's good to redo that, making sure that you are getting these bands. Sometimes I do this to make sure that I'm getting the right bands. I go from the side, and there you have it. And then we get to the center bands, and it's a little bit easier when we get to that. Now we will loop this row of bands on the face. And one of my bands broke. So what do we do? Do we redo the whole thing? Not necessarily. What you can do if this happens is to make sure that the band that you are replacing is placed in the right spot, and in this case it is in between this yellow bands and this horizontal bands over here. So what we do is to take away the horizontal band and place it to a pin that's out of the way. Replace the band that was broken, and then reposition the band that was above it. And then, because we needed to loop these bands to this, all we need to do is to hold on to these bands and insert the hook into these bands over here. Place the other bands in the hook. Get it out of there. And then place it on the pin. So instead of redoing the entire thing, we were able to remedy the situation. Let us continue the looping. When we get to the top, as we loop the bands for the hair, what I usually do is to grab the end of the band, the upper end of the band, and place it on the center pin. And then I grab the other band on the other side and place it on the center pin. That way, when we loop the pins for the hair, they will be more, they'll be neater when we loop them this way, instead of being bunched up and twisted. And that is the looping for the Thor action figure. You might want to pause the video and check to see if you have the same layout. Now all we need to do is to secure the end loops with a single yellow band. We insert the hook into the top bands, place our single band on the hook, take it out of the layers of bands, and then loop it to itself to tie a slip knot, secure it, and we are now ready to get the piece of the loom. Make sure this band is secure. And then just stretch and fine-tune the shape. Looking for the bands that are twisted and setting them right. See how big the muscles look in his upper body. And because of the way that we placed the loops for the arm, it looks right. Otherwise it would be twisty like that. But because of the way that we placed the upper loop and the lower loop, it kind of looks like a very natural muscle mass. And then just stretch, fine tune. And we are now ready to add the accents and the other features for this project. I have been working on the eyes for this action figure. Let me show you how to do it. We will be placing the eye in this area, in between these 3 pairs of rubber bands. I have already placed the left eye. Now let us place the right eye. You will be looking for the horizontal band that's in the middle of the piece, the ones that we place on the loom, and these are the bands that we'll be holding the eyes. And the way to do the eyes is to get a single black band or whatever color you would like the eye to be. Just stretch it out a bit so it'll be more manageable. And then tie a knot, a single knot on this band. I usually use a hook for this because it's easier. Okay. Unlike the shark and the poodle eyes that we made, this will only have one knot. So we will have a smaller eyes for Thor. So we will be placing these loops into that spot over there, so we will have the eye. Let me show you how that's done. Okay. From the back, insert your hook in between these two teardrop shapes, and you go above this set of bands here, the horizontal bands. Just insert it and get it out there, and make sure when you get it out the front that it is in between these two teardrop shapes on the face. And then get one of the loops from the eyepiece and pull it into that spot, and it will go out the back. Okay, and then turn your piece again, and this time you go in between these two teardrop shapes, but you are going below the bands inside. And when you get out the front, make sure you are in between these two teardrop shapes. Get the other loop in, and then pull it out the back. And you can secure these loops that are formed with C-clips. You can get a C-clip and secure the loops with the C-clip. You could use a pair of tweezers if you're having a hard time grasping the bands. There. Make sure they are secured. The end loops are secured in the C-clip. And then we just make sure the knots on the eyes come out of the spot where we place them in. Depending on how big you would like them to look, you could just tuck them in to the bands on the face. Sometimes it's a good idea to pull them out so you'll have more control, and then just pull them back in. Until you get the desired look in the eye area. If you would like finer eyes, you might want to use seed beads. All you need to do is string them up and then pull them from the back area, and you will have them in the same spot as the rubber band eyes that we made earlier. I just find them finer looking than the rubber band eyes that we make. Now for the long hair. This might be a challenge for some. So if you just wanted to have a short-haired Thor, then that's fine. But if you wanted Thor to have long hair like this, somebody on the Rainbow Loom page said he kind of looks like an 80s rocker. So the way to do that is to get a fine crochet hook. If you don't have a fine crochet hook, the original hook that came with the Rainbow Loom will work, but it is more convenient to use a fine hook. So what you do is to loop a yellow band into this area over here. You could find the best bands that could hold the end of the hair. I'm using these 3 bands over here. And then you pull a yellow band into those bands that you've picked out. Okay? So there you have it. And then once you have these loops over here, get the back loop and then pick a good band from the head area to hold the hair. And in my case, I'm seeing this one. And then I'll pick up my front loop. So now I have 3 bands in my hook. And then I get my second piece of yellow band and pull it into these bands. Okay. And now I do the same thing. I get my back loop, find a good place to hold it, a good band to hold it, and in this case I am seeing this to be a good band to hold it, and then I'll get my front loop. So now I have 3 loops again in my hook. I get my third rubber band, my yellow rubber band that matches the hair, and then I pull this into those loops that I have. So see that? The hair is being formed, and then I just have my 2 loops again. I get this loop from the hair bands. I get my back loop, and then I get my front loop, and then I get the other band from the hair bands that we have up top, and I just get this band that we use to secure the top. I get it and loop it and pull it into that whole set of bands. And if it slips off, just redo it, pull it back, and there you have Thor with long hair. And you do that on the other side, and you will get this. And when you are done doing it on the other side, all you need to do is get this loop that you use to secure the hair bands and loop it into the C-clip that is holding the eyes. So everything that needs to be secured is secured on this C-clip. Now let's talk about the cape. If you only have one loom, then you will have to learn how to make a wider single triple. I've seen people do it by extending the vertical bars and then moving them. I have two looms, that's why I'm able to make a single triple that is 4 bands wide, and I made another one that is 5 bands wide because that is how I wanted my cape to be. In the interest of time, I will not be able to teach you how to make a single triple bracelet. In fact, in my book, I think you don't deserve to have a rainbow loom if you don't know how to make a single triple. Sorry about that. But in the future, I might be able to come up with a tutorial for a single triple. But for now, I just want to teach you how to attach the cape to the action figure. So you get the ends, the end of the single triple. You insert a black single band on the corner, and then make a slip knot in there. And then what you do is to insert these black bands into the shoulder area of the action figure. So holding the cape this way, you go from the back, insert a hook, and then it'll come out front, pull the black band on your cape into that spot. Okay, and then do that for the other side. From the back, insert your hook in the shoulder area. It will come out the front area. It depends on what bands you want to have it hold your cape. In my case, I want that part over there. I get the black band holding my cape, and then I pull it in until I have my two ends over there. And you guessed it, we will secure those with the C clip. There you go. And you flip over the cape to the back. And there you have the cape. So it will show. You might want to move it a little bit to one side so it will show. And once again, you fine tune the eyes, since a lot of that pulling and stretching could get them out of place. Okay, so there you have Thor. If you are using a narrower cape, it doesn't look as good. But if you are using the 5 band wide cape, then it really looks good on Thor. For the hammer, you get a toothpick and you cut it to desired length. And then you wrap it with a dark brown rubber band. Just loop, 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 loop. Okay. And You keep going, and then use more bands as needed. Just wrap, wrap, loop, loop. Okay. You could do this as neatly as you want it to be. Okay. And then for the end, okay, you might want to leave a loop like this, and then you wrap that with another rubber band. Okay. I just keep on looping and looping. Okay, then I just fine-tune the piece. I have this handle loop over there. Okay, and you will get to this. That's the handle for the hammer. And for the head of the hammer, you will do a regular fishtail bracelet, depending on how long you want your fishtail to be. If you want it thicker, you could use you could make a fishtail using double bands instead of a single band. I made this with 6 pairs of gray rubber bands, and then I secured the end with a rubber band, and then so you don't see this, I just tucked it into the piece. I inserted a hook, and then I tucked in the end in there so it doesn't show, and then you get the handle that you made, and then just insert it into the fishtail bracelet, and there you have the hammer. And you just insert it into these bands over here. Wait, that's the left hand. Okay, insert it into these bands over here. Okay. Turn it to whichever way you want it to turn. And there you have Thor's hammer. In fact, there you have it. Thor, now showing at a rainbow loom near you.